But let's talk about that side hustle first of all, Trung, because I feel like another Trung, 10, 15 years younger, living in New York, living in Boston, this could have been Trung, slanging those resis on the side, no?
Dude, I was never as successful entrepreneurially as you is with the bling bling empire king business.
But you got that side hustle
I
gene,
did used
I
to
could tell.
slang things on eBay though.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
the move.
I used to buy some throwback jerseys, Penny
Oh my
Hardaway in
God.
Orlando or
Penny
Stephon
Hardaway.
Marbury on Minnesota. Make that 10%.
Would you go
degen-
thrifting Gary Vee style, or what was
No,
it
I
like?
never-
You
I
just
never-
had them in the closet. What was the deal here?
Dude, you were talking about David Ramsey's financial advice, dude. The Gary
Jay-
Vee advice is
Gary
just
Vee's
as
like,
fun.
go
It's
to
like, what
the-
are you doing? What are you doing?
Yard
You
sale,
should
bro.
be going free money at the thrift store.
Welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. We got me, Master Flex himself here today, Trung Phan, Bilal Zaidi. Unfortunately, Jack can't join. He's good. Few people text me checking he's all right. He's fine. Don't worry. He's just got some stuff going on he's dealing with right now.
Busy. He's a busy guy,
He's busy,
people.
yeah. All good stuff. But just to let you guys know, few people were messaging, so I just want to make sure you guys know. Trung, what's going on, man? We got a lot to talk about today. It's a mad week.
Today's a rapid fire day, but before we get into meme of the week, why don't we tease up what we got on the menu? Then I'm gonna.
This is full NIA. This is Degen Economy. Dave and Buster's. We're gonna have to explain to the Europeans listening what Dave and Buster's is, but they're gonna be allowing people to bet on arcade games. So we're gonna talk about that theme of gambling bleeding into every part of society, and what we're calling the Degen Economy. There was another story about the NBA banning a guy for life, a player. He was betting. We're going to talk about cricket related to that, by the way.
Okay, beautiful.
Oh, there's some old school. There's a guy a guy who's listening to the pod I know right now, used to play with him. And in our era of cricket, and he got done for what was called spot fixing, where they would do ridiculous things.
I love this.
Let's talk about that in a second. And then we're going to talk related to Degen Economy. This is more side hustle. I wouldn't put this in Degen personally. I respect the hustle. The Resy Scalpers. So people are making 70, 80 grand a year selling reservations at high-end restaurants in New York.
Numerous platforms for reservation hawking. I mean, Bilal will know some of them, but we'll definitely do that. What else?
Let's talk about that. And then Tesla, we're going to talk a little follow-up on last week because we
There's
recorded...
some big follow-ups, actually, yeah.
Yeah, because the summary from last week was we were anticipating bad results, but in the end, they popped off.
They were
15%.
bad results. He just made different announcements, which we
Exactly,
can talk about.
yeah. We'll talk about China and the deal there and what's going on. Let's get into it, Trung. Degen Economy. I think you got a meme of the week for us. Hit it.
Yeah, here we go. Here's the meme of the week. I mean, I'm pumping my own tires here, so be aware. So I wrote this morning because Bilal had mentioned Dave & Buster's. It's an arcade nighttime drinking venue for the European cats that don't know, and even for the Canadian ones.
Even for Bilal on the call, because I have never been. So
you never been Dave & Buster's? I've been a couple of times. I went for some corporate retreats. It sounds like a very Google thing. You don't think Google would do a Dave & Buster's?
I feel like some people would do. I think some people would do like a team event, maybe not the full company.
Well, everybody knows Chuck E. Cheese, right?
Oh, again, yeah. I mean, games. I know of it. Never been.
Okay,
I know it
Dave
from like
Buster's.
A rap song. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like
So Dave &
I'm
Buster's.
not going to say the lyric because I can't say all the words, but that's a classic line. I think Ludacris might have said it one time.
Well, let me give a top level. Dave & Buster's, there's 222 locations in America. Its ticker is incredible. PLAY, play.
Oh my God.
Great ticker. It is a $2 billion publicly traded company. 200 plus locations, as I mentioned, founded in 1982. Obviously, a lot of expansions. It's in this world of live, in person. Can you make it enticing? Obviously, you get the liquor going. It's something for the kids, something for the parents, and now something really for the parents.
Yeah, they're like, get the roulette wheel going.
Here's a CNBC headline: Dave & Buster's to allow customers to bet on arcade games. I mean, this is just hysterical, man. These are the key points from the article. Loyalty members will be able to bet on games. It's smart, right? It's done through an app, and it's being facilitated by a company called Lucra. But anyways, you know how with everything, everybody's trying to get you on an app, right? Like McDonald's has like 200 million app users. Like that's a great asset.
200 million.
200 million because I never realized this. My friend
Maybe not in the
uses my
Middle East
contact.
right now because they're struggling there, but that's
Exactly.
another story.
Well, they had
Yeah.
to sell their company back to McDonald's. We don't have to talk about that. So app. It's any loyalty program. The app, you can push notifications, push promotions. So it's actually pretty smart because it looks like you have to be 18 years old. That sounds very gameable, but you can make friendly $5 wages. I'm putting everything in air quotes for hot shots basketball or skee ball.
Wait, is that the max you can bet? It's $5.
Well, that's what they put.
That's what it's starting with.
I would imagine that's probably what they're going to cap it at because things can get gnarly if you're letting people bet like $5,000 on Mortal. Like our friend Doug.
You're basically turning it into a casino by that point, right?
Exactly. Well, here let me do the real meme of the week. Shout out to Doug Boneparth, a friend of the pod. He's got a great one. This is Doug's. He goes, same headline. Can't wait to tell my wife I lost the house playing Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
That's funny.
That's a real deal, though. I mean, so what do you reckon? I mean, so
well, let me read through. You read through. You read through it. This is for Degen Economy now. All right, so this is before you read it, let me teach you.
You do it in your voice because you wrote this. You're going to do it better.
The whole point about Dave and Buster's, and I think the knee-jerk reaction we're all having is, man, it feels like betting is just bleeding into every part of our lives, right? We've talked about on this podcast for years now. It's like the Robin Hoodification of investing, right? There's that. There's the meme coins. There's there's online gambling, which we've talked about, sports betting, which has gone absolutely crazy, which is what we're really going to talk about in this first segment. But so here we are. My daily routine in the year 2025, 6 a.m. I wake up, probably because my kid woke up and told me he's dropping a deuce and he needs me to wipe him. That's why I'm waking up. 7 a.m. Check my meme coin portfolio. Not doing too hot.
You gotta know if you're gonna be up or down for the day. How's my mood gonna be for the day?
Exactly.
Basically.
And how am I gonna make the bets over the rest of the day? 8 a.m. Check my emails. Maybe I'll answer one or two of them. Probably not. 9 a.m. Use Robinhood to buy a stock that I saw 137 replies down on a Reddit thread. 12 p.m. Have lunch. 1 p.m. Get that first toothbrush in.
Oh yeah, you don't even do that in the morning, you know.
Bro, hold on. I gotta pause here. Sidebar. One of the gnarliest things I've ever done is I went to Helsinki, Finland, and when you're traveling and you're on a budget, you're a bit younger, and you just you're saving every dollar you can, right?
I hope you were not brushing your teeth.
I didn't bring a toothbrush, and I refused to buy it. That
happens to the best. Yeah. Oh, come on.
No, but this is how you're talking about Degen. This is how Degen I was. For 72 hours.
I hope you were single back then because doing that with a wife is different.
Well, hold on a second. Let me finish this. For 72 hours, I refused to buy a toothbrush, but I went on drinking every single day.
Oh my God. You must have smelled like a homeless person there by that point, man. So maybe I should be talking about homeless people, but that's.
Well, yeah. Let's get back to 1 p.m. 2 p.m.
So wait, just to clarify though, I'm not going to let you just pass over. You didn't brush your teeth for 72 hours and you drank to add onto this.
Well, I assumed that the Finnish vodka would have some cleansing properties.
That's actually a very good point. It probably does.
Yeah, there you go.
Not health advice, but
not health advice. Okay, 2 p.m. Place multiple 10-bet parlays for the NBA, NFL, and WNBA. 3 p.m.
I also love you put WNBA.
Yeah, I know, right?
Real quick, that was a nice detail. Also, just for again, this is a whole segment on its own.
Yeah.
Parlay for non-Americans. What is parlay? Is multiple bet, right?
So
because we call that multiples in Europe.
Multiple. So let's set it up, right? This is elementary or grade 8 math.
I was gonna say math, 101 here.
If you do something with, let's say a team has a 10% chance of winning, and then you combine that bet with another situation where both teams will score more than 130 points in NBA, that also has a 10% chance of happening.
So it becomes
what happens
less
when
less.
you multiply 10% by 10%? That's a 1% chance.
And I'm assuming you've done a parlay in your life, right?
Multiple.
Yeah, like this weekend maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, this weekend. Well, parlays are hysterical because 10% times 10% as a hypothetical is a 1% chance of happening. But obviously, the betting company is going to give you even less than a 1%, 100 times payout, right? Which is what a 1% would suggest. They're going to completely dog you, which is why parlays are the biggest dog shit bets ever. But they're
People
so
just
fun.
hype themselves up because they're like, of course, Arsenal going to beat Tottenham and Man City going to beat Nottingham Forest, and this is going to, and it never,
But
obviously.
It makes it so much fun to play, right?
Oh, completely, yeah.
Because you hit a parlay, you'll get paid out.
You get from $10, you get like, $1,000 or something like that. Yeah.
Well, this is actually a theme that we also touch on, the financial nihilism, which was what Jack brought up a couple episodes ago. Did you ever read that thing from Travis Kling, crypto hedge fund manager? This idea of financial nihilism? All right. So we'll get back to that. Let's get back to the day. This is turning into its own segment.
This is a whole segment. I love it. This is a perfect Degen Economy summary. Yeah.
All right. So after I bet on the WNBA, after I set a multiple bet parlay with Caitlin Clark, superstar coming out of college now, who just signed a $28 million deal with Nike.
Making Steph Curry look like nothing.
Exactly. 3 p.m., I'm going to roll up. I want to throw in the DraftKings app. I'm setting that NBA daily lineup, that daily fantasy lineup.
It would have been a perfect, product placement tweet. Like, how many impressions has this got right now? Just so I know.
It's early. It's early.
It's early. Okay. We don't.
It's got potential.
Impression shame. You're gone.
4 p.m. Got to play some online poker. How much online poker have you played in your day, sir?
Not for a long time. I did at uni for a little while, and I go all in too quickly. But that was a long time ago.
I'm the drill. Now. So 5 p.m. After you lost all your all-in money, you go check on that stock you bought from Reddit on. I don't know if you remember this. Last week, New York Stock Exchange said they might consider 24/7 trading. So,
welcome to the crypto world. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm selling my stock at 5 p.m. after hours currently, but not next year. If this NYSE comes through, I'm down 70% in that stock. That's fine, because I'm going to go on my Twitter and go look at some NBA Twitter memes. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to make 18 prop bets on NBA League Pass. Then I'm going to check my meme coin portfolio down to 0. Then I'm going to go to the gym and work out while I'm listening to a Michael Saylor podcast. Halfway through my treadmill run, I'm going to buy some more Bitcoin.
We've all been there. Yeah, we've all been there on the lat pull down machine.
Yeah.
You're
listening to Saylor on your lat pull down machine, and then you're going to buy some BTC. I've done it.
100%.
All right. Then I meet my friends at Dave & Buster's at 9 p.m. This is end of the night. I bet them $100 on Dance Dance Revolution. I win.
That's a good throwback as well.
But I'm down $3,000 for the day. So anyways, that's the day in my life in 2025. That is an overarching meme economy.
That is poetry there, Tron.
Okay, Bilal, so I want to know, what do you think about how do you feel about that day?
I mean, it sounds like a fun day with a lot of ups and downs, more downs than ups, but sometimes you're just in the game, you got to play the game. No, man, all jokes aside, it is a pretty wild time we're going through, because like we're going to talk about, sports betting and the NBA stuff, but it's a bit wild that the 24-hour stock market kind of makes sense in a way, but in a way you're like, let's just have a break, man. Like, it's already a lot with the crypto world doing that.
Bro, no, I want you to think about this. Let's talk to the mechanics of 24/7 trading. Listen, this is all Degen Economy.
Yeah, wild.
It was like, obviously FTX pitched this, right? Why can't you trade Tesla or Apple 24/7? You can do it with crypto stocks. Matt Levine from Bloomberg brought up a great point. He's like, actually, if you actually think about it, it would materially change obviously it sounds like, of course, it's going to change corporate America. No, but this is why it's going to change corporate America. Because most companies now, when do they report news? Bilal, when do they report news?
Is it normally end of the week or something? Or
no, like at what time of day do they report? Do they report it
end
during?
Of the day or during work hours? You mean? Yeah.
No, but end of the trading hours, after hours.
Yeah. So that it doesn't. Yeah. So yeah.
The whole point is that they want to be able to disseminate information in the most fair way possible. Right?
Yeah.
So everybody knows the market closes at 4. People drop news then. Typically drop news at that time. Corporates do, or overnight. If you have 24/7 trading and you're a comms person, when do you drop news?
Oh, man.
Because there are some people that will be having these bots 24/7 versus Joe Average, who doesn't have time to deal with all that. Now, if you drop news, you will be giving an edge, a very clear edge to people that this is all they're doing, right? Because at least
they're professionals.
You could congregate around 4 p.m. You can still trade after hours, right? Of course you can. But the dissemination of information is much more fair. But basically, it comes down to what you just said, Bilal. Can we just have a break?
I think we're going in the wrong direction in that way, you know?
Yeah.
Like personally, even though we all joke about the crypto being 24/7, it's not just about people trading stocks. It's like you said, those PR people, the marketing team, you're now getting a call from your boss on the weekend because there's more emergencies happening because there's stuff happening on the weekend and stuff like that. So yeah, that is a wild.
I hope they don't allow it, man.
I agree.
It's just not.
I think we need a clear distinction of time for most people.
I think it's unnecessary.
Agreed.
Listen, man. I'm not saying this in a religious way. The Sabbath makes sense. The day of rest makes sense, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Day of rest is Lindy. Okay. So 24/7 trading. We talked about that. Now just let's open up the lens a bit to the more degenerate economy we're talking about. Bilal, you wanted to talk about India's cricket and sports betting. So you said that parlays in Europe are called multiples, which is hysterical.
I think so. That's what when I did it, it was cool. I used something called Betfair back in the day, and you would do. It was kind of like a quite innovative company. Have you heard of Betfair, by the way?
I have heard of Betfair.
They were the ones who really the first ones to do like a two-sided marketplace, I think. So before you were betting against the bookie, then they were like, well, let's just be a stock market for buying and selling. And so that was actually really innovative when they did it. So you would be able to create multiples and parlay equivalents, but betting against other people. So I don't know how that works compared to
and they were
making
things
right now.
Very nice commission.
Oh yeah, a nice small commission in between. You know, the spread is how they made their money and fees.
How do you feel about sports betting in general? Have you heard or seen it affect? Because this happened in Europe earlier than in North America, right? Yeah. Has it affected the sport?
I actually thought there was a good discussion on All In, Big Brother podcast of Not Investment Advice with Chamath and a few. They were talking about. Did you hear that episode recently? It was a few weeks ago, I think. And they were basically, Chamath, first of all, was quite funny, ran a little mini casino in his school or whatever he said. But my kind of summary, I thought they summarized it quite well. It's kind of like a lot of vices, but alcohol, smoking, drugs, whatever. My general position on a lot of these things is in a free society, you can allow them with some guardrails, knowing that when you criminalize something, people are going to be setting up their own betting things anyway. And so there's a fine line, and most people are probably responsible enough, like 80-90% of the distribution essentially are able to bet like an adult, do it for fun, it adds something to the group chat, whatever. Now, there's going to be a percentage, I don't know what that percentage is, 5, 10, 20% of people that get addicted, like people who become alcoholics or drug addicts, etc. Yep. And it can become very, very, it can become terrible, life-ending stuff for some people. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, I stopped doing it a long time ago. I did a bit at college I would be up at night watching the NBA, like 2 a.m., and it would be stupid. I'm like, why am I doing this sort of thing? And it was more, honestly, for me, it was catching the fun of getting the price right. Like, it was basically trading. I was like, oh, the odds are changing in the game. And I love knowing. How do I catch it? Yeah, I loved getting it right. And I was like, it wasn't about the money. I was just like, I loved the feeling of trading. I would buy and sell in games. That's kind of what I did. So yeah, my general take on it is that for sports specifically, it can add to the fun, but I would never bet on like my own team because it really, then you're looking at the odds. Like, and instead of watching and enjoying the game, I'm looking at my phone, and I don't personally like that feeling. I just want something that is pure. Let me just enjoy this for its own sake, not because I made like $100 on it or something. What about you?
No, I agree with you that in the dosage that you're saying, it definitely. I mean, especially when you're describing the parlays, is like that makes it makes it fun, right? It does. An afternoon watching with your boys is fun.
Yeah, but and people should definitely be allowed to do it. Like, in my opinion,
people should be allowed to do it
responsible way.
What I would say though is, I think the reason why I asked, does it warp European sports, is I'm seeing it, and people have talked about it warping the North American sports. And I'll tell
You
you,
mean what does that mean, in the game itself, or does that mean your experience
I'll tell
watching
you.
it?
I'll tell you how it's bleeding into the game. So Jason Tatum, the Boston Celtics forward, top 5 player in the league, he was saying fans are yelling at him for not oh, you effed up my parlay, get a rebound. A coach for I think the Detroit Pistons got a death threat because they didn't hit a parlay because of a decision he made. Now, I know these are end of one cases, smaller cases.
Edge cases, yeah.
But the way that the leagues are promoting online gambling, it's insane, right? And they saw it as a lifeline, like a financial lifeline, right? Because you have to remember, these leagues made so much money, and the nuts and bolts of these leagues are these TV deals that we've talked about. Like the NBA is about to negotiate a very lucrative next TV deal. But this will probably be the last of that ilk because the cable bundles we've talked about is coming undone. So all these leagues are like, oh, we're losing that juicy cable TV money. And you have to remember, cable was one of the greatest business models ever because you had 100+ million people in North America that were just blindly subscribing to these cable bundles because, not blindly, just whatever. Everybody has it. You kind of get everything, right? And the sports leagues were getting the most money out of it. But this cable bundle is unbundling. I don't have cable. I don't think you have cable, right?
We're
both cord cutters. Yeah, we're both cord cutters. We're an example of where this is headed. And that cable money is going away. So the league saw an opportunity to fill it with this online gambling, sports gambling money. And they went all in. Dude, you go to any podcast about basketball or sports, DraftKings, FanDuel. DraftKings is a $20 billion company. And the money that they're offering players, we talk about this. When somebody's offering for customer acquisition hundreds of dollars, we'll match you. If you put $100 or $200 in your bank account, we'll match you. Dude, so you're going to acquire a customer at that rate. Either this is insanely unsustainable and this company's going to implode, or B, they know if they hook a couple whales, they're making X amount back, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the heavy promotion of gambling, and now it's bleeding into actually fans are yelling at the players and coaches. I'm that's kind of weird, man. I think it's going a little bit overboard. And then you add the recent scandals with, we had mentioned it, right? An NBA player, I think is Jonah Porter. His brother, Michael Porter Jr., plays for the Denver Nuggets champions. He just got banned for life from the NBA. And it's wild because he was putting these prop bets on himself. How many minutes will I play in a game?
That's wild.
Dude, how funny is that?
Yeah.
He's putting a prop bet, but DraftKings and FanDuel, they'll flag these things. They have algos saying
yeah, that seems like an easy thing to flag too. It's like
exactly,
an anomaly a lot of the time.
If somebody's putting a massive bet on a
less than 5 minutes game or something.
Player in the league playing 5. Exactly, right? So he got a lifetime ban. And I'm not even worried about players betting on themselves. The reason is he's a journeyman player. He probably wouldn't have stuck in the league anyways. Just insane for him to throw everything away though, for that.
Yeah, that's sad. That's sad.
That's so sad, right?
Did you see this Ivan Toney example from the Premier League? Have you heard of him? No,
tell me.
He's one of the top strikers in the Premier League, English guy. He's now playing again. I think he got a 6-month ban. Maybe it was longer, but I'm pretty sure it was 6 months because he started playing since this year again. And he was one of the top 3-4 strikers in the league, top goal scorer. Last year he was maybe number 2 or 3. But this is actually funny. You'll love this. I'm pretty sure he was only betting on his own team, to win. So it was not he was trying to throw the game. But obviously it's not allowed. They know they're not allowed to do that. And the other one was betting on him to score, I think. And so in a way, you're you got to respect the confidence.
I respect that.
Yeah, I'm at least he's not betting against him not scoring and then throwing it out.
Well, did you see Ryan Garcia?
No, what happened with that?
Lightweight boxer.
Yeah.
He said he apparently made $12 million betting on himself, and he was allowed to, and he won.
Oh, he's allowed to do that. Oh,
yeah.
Damn.
So he's a G. So,
but just one thing, Trung, even that though, betting on yourself, in the football example, you could argue Ivan Toney might be in front of goal, near the goal, And because he's got a bet on, instead of passing to the guy who might be in a better position, he would try to score.
You're right.
In my opinion, no players should be allowed to bet. Like, you just take it out. In the same way, I think politicians shouldn't be.
Well, yeah, no players should be able to bet themselves. It's insane, right?
It's like Nancy Pelosi with her stock picks, basically. You know what I mean? It's like they know, they have inside info here.
Well, the thing is, they aren't allowed to bet outside of boxing, apparently. But boxing and betting is so like, but that's very specific, right? Game, you're boxing. Yeah. If you're betting yourself to box, you're not throwing that match.
That's
right?
respect.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, tell us about the cricket thing. You're mentioning cricket.
So yeah, this was from a long time ago. It's happened a lot. I mean, there was a lot of match fixing, like actual match fixing at the team level. There's documentaries on YouTube people can watch. It happened with the South Africa team, the Pakistani team, India, I'm pretty sure. Even England, I'm sure there were cases of stuff like that. There was a guy, Hansie Cronje, who was the South African captain, like a legendary player, like top player, 90s, early 2000s he played, I think. And he got done for match fixing. But those were coordinated things at the team level, that's a terrible thing, right? Like, your whole team is like, well, we're going to not win today. And or maybe it wasn't the whole team, but it was enough of them. Or even if it was just the captain, he has quite a lot of control, because in cricket, you're kind of like the manager or the coach on the field, because you're picking like where the field positions are. You're picking who's going to bowl, who's going to come in to bat and stuff like that. But then specifically the one example I was thinking of, I don't even want to really say his name because it's kind of, people can look it up, but there was a few examples in the county cricket game with a guy that we played with who's my age, and he was doing no balls, they called. So you're basically going to bowl and you put your foot over the line, and that team gets like one extra run, and you replay that point equivalent, right? So the ball. So in the grand scheme of a game where there's 200-300 runs being made, it's one extra run. So it's not a huge crazy thing, but it's the integrity of the game is obviously compromised, right?
That's the thing, the integrity of the game. That's what it comes down to.
And so there'll be stuff like that, and they would be doing these. There was, I think, Daily Mail or The Mirror did this whole tabloid expose where they had all these crazy interviews, and it was like maybe it was a BBC Panorama documentary too on it. And in cricket is quite an interesting example, because it's a hugely popular sport, and the money, especially back then, was poor. Like,
yeah,
compared to like football and stuff like that, they would be making way less. And now the IPL, Indian Premier League, has changed that a bit. They get paid a lot more, I think, and endorsements and stuff. But these people might be making like 1,500K maybe, like for the whole year back in the day, which is what you could make in a regular career in most places. So, that was happening quite a lot back then. I hopefully it's been stamped out since then, but I just assume there's always going to be a little bit of that in most sports. But when you start,
the risk is, because now they're just ramping it up. I mean, the other one we didn't talk about was Shohei Ohtani, right? I don't know if you saw that.
Oh yeah, what happened there again? He's the baseball guy,
he's the best baseball player in the world, arguably one of the 5 greatest ever. He's like a top level pitcher and a top level batter. Babe Ruth famously did both. Was also a pitcher and a batter, but he never did it at the same time at this level. So like Shohei Ohtani, who plays for the Dodgers, huge scandal. We haven't talked about it yet, but it's worth touching on, because I think
we just talked about him getting this mad contract that came up.
Yeah, we talked about the mad contract, which was backloaded. So he had a $600 million contract, but that was just like a headline. He is deferring all of a large portion of it until after 2035. So if anybody here knows discount rates and like time value of money, like the headline number is like 600-700 million, but because of he's deferring, I think he's only taking $2 million a year instead of whatever 40-50. He's deferring hundreds of millions, which means the contract's worth closer to 450-500 million. Anyways, besides the point. The point is this: the big news story came out that his translator, who for the past decades also kind of been like his confidant and one of his best friends in America, because Shohei doesn't speak great English. He's from Japan. He needed a handler, and his handler became kind of his best friend and translator. And people thought this is exactly what you said. It was like this cricket incident, or famously in baseball, Pete Rose was banned for life for betting on the sport. But the feds got involved because money was going directly from Shohei Ohtani's checking account to an a bookie, a sports bookie in California, and sports betting is illegal in California. So they're just like, this is sketchy, right? Like directly from the best player in baseball, one of the most famous Japanese people in the world, to an illegal sports bookie. Whether or not it should be illegal is another question, right? Because I think we just talked about, we both agree sports betting should be legal.
Yeah, but not for a player. You know,
yeah,
like,
not for a player. Different. Well, actually, MLB players are allowed to bet as long as it's not baseball. Right?
Okay, that's fair enough. Sports. Yeah, sorry, I should clarify. If it's not their sport,
you can't bet on your
regular.
own sport. Exactly. Yeah. So, but the problem then is because it's an illegal sports bookie, they start questioning Shohei's team, and they're like, oh no, it was my translator that stole money from me, owed the bookie $4 million. I think the number got up to 16 million. But people started then questioning, is the bookie taking the fall for Shohei? You know what I mean? Was it straight robbery, or were they actually both sports betting together? The ultimate investigation said that it was stolen, about 16 million in total. Dude, his translator won and lost over hundreds of millions of dollars, but ultimately was 40 million in the bag. And then the story that people are going for now
40 million down.
40 million down. Is that some people, the story kept changing, so that's why people were sketchy. It's like, oh no, Shohei found out about it, wanted to help his buddy out. Anyways, the whole point is that they cleared Shohei's name. But I think this all has to do with how hard sports betting is just being shoved down our throats. It's like, dude, you listen to football pods. Who are the advertisers? Please tell me that there's got to be sports betting.
Actually,
right?
I mean, that I used when I did Arsenal Review back in the day. I used to have. Yeah, I at one point had one writer just do betting previews.
It's crazy.
And to be honest, I stopped doing it, not because I was so big that I was, getting so many people signed up, but just ethically after a while, I was like, even if I don't mind doing it, I don't especially want to like promote it personally. Yeah. Especially back then. Maybe I'd feel differently now. But I was like, literally, someone was writing a betting preview, and he liked doing that, and it was quite interesting content, but it was, you're like, oh, these are some picks and these are some undervalued things or whatever. And then you sign up, you get that $200 sign up or whatever, pound sign up.
They give you some sick
affiliate
fee,
the affiliate
right?
and the affiliate fees are pretty good on those I mean, gambling is known to be one of the best. Like, I have a good friend of mine who did it for casinos, affiliate stuff. And like the sign-ups are crazy, but the reason is because
you know why you're gonna catch a wheel, you're gonna fuck them, right? Like
completely.
Well, talk us through.
Actually, one of the things actually on the affiliate side, if I remember correctly, because this is now almost 20 years ago, but 2004, 2006 roughly. One of the things I found a bit weird was some of the bookies, they would pay on how much profit they made from someone, not just like a sign-up.
They would pay the affiliate. That's dirty, man.
Yeah, that one, and that was where, and if I remember correctly, I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure, because there was Betfair, there was Bet365, and there were a few others. But Betfair, I'm pretty sure, was just like, hey, if someone signs up, deposits money, makes a bet, you get paid £50 or 100, whatever it was. The other one was like, based on the profit they make, you get a percentage. Do you know how twisted
that is? It's because that's incentivizing you to send them your most degenerate friends and people that's messed, man.
That is a bit messed. And then now what I will say is I don't know if there was a downside. It was just more, I guess they would maybe argue it's kind of like Amazon affiliate. They're like, oh, if someone spends more, you get more. If they spend less, you get less. So it's like a percentage of revenue, but it's not exactly the same.
Diapers and like that's Amazon true. Basics, like chargers.
Yeah, fair, completely. But anyway, for me, it was quite a small, like I did it for a little while and I hardly made any money from it, but it just felt a little bit unnecessary. And again, full transparency, I was a little bit more religious back then, so I felt kind of bad, just religious.
Well,
I felt immoral promoting something like that.
Well, what are the rules?
Well, in like gambling? Islamically, if I'm not super religious now. Yeah, gambling is not something you're supposed to do, obviously. So I felt a bit like, I don't really want to promote that, even if I'm okay doing it personally. It's the same way like drinking. Like I would never own a bar. Like even if I'm not super religious now, I probably wouldn't want to like own a bar in the future. You know what I mean? But anyway, it's got that old Muslim guilt probably, but that's turning it into a therapy session. So we'll save that for my actual therapist. why don't we talk about more about the Degen economy? But go on, yeah. So was there anything else on that? Because I think the Resy Scalpers is related to this, so we're going to move on to that in a second.
Well, the only thing I'd add is Travis Kling, who wrote the financial nihilism thing. Well, actually, a friend of the pod, Chris McCoy, actually tagged Travis on that tweet I put out. So shout out to Chris. And the TLDR is this. I mean, this is not going to be news to you, but I like how Travis articulated it. He's like, you have to think about how crazy. So Howard Linsden, also a friend, a social leverage. He talks about the Degen economy a lot. He's invested in various of these.
The investor, right? You're talking about, right?
I think he's invested early in Robinhood, but he talks about this a lot. He writes about it a lot, and it's just, man, it's just this idea that people don't think they can get ahead, right? And so why am I gonna put? We joke about it all the time. Why am I gonna put $500 in Berkshire and make 4% a year for the next 50 years, right? Like, this isn't like Berkshire for the last 50 years, where you're doing 20 per annum nonstop, right? Berkshire for the next 50 years is not doing 20% a year. I mean, if it did, it'd be bigger than the global economy. So like, why would I invest in that? Me as a millennial or Gen Z, when I could YOLO in this 10-bet parlay. I mean, we talked about this when you're doing your meme coins, right? You dick. But what did Jack say is like, what was Jack's barbell? He had a really funny term for it.
It was like solid, silly money and smart money or something like that. Yeah,
smart money, silly money, right? But I think it's bad, man. Like, I'm not saying this in a morally, like, all of us this is amoral, and I participated in it too, but I'm just trying to extrapolate this over hundreds of millions of people like my age or within 10 years of our age. It's like, it's not good, man. It's like, it's like, it's not good in two ways. The daily trading, as we know, the dopamine is just like, it can really mess with your psychology and actually just make you unproductive on a day-to-day basis. Like, you're better off just building a skill, right? And spending that time getting better at something, which ultimately you can control. I can't control a 10-bet parlay as much as I wish I could, right? I can't control which shitcoin meme coin is going to blow up. Although Trudeau was a great name.
Oh my God.
This is this idea of
almost as good
nihilism.
as Bowden, you know?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So it's tough to break. I see the incentive though. When we always talk about incentives, why wouldn't you take this bet? Like, you're not going to compound your $500 savings into a home anyways. You might as well just go to Dave & Buster's and fucking try to win a $20,000 from your friends in Mortal Kombat, right?
Yeah.
But that's my only thought.
Yes, yeah. I think we could probably talk about it all day, so maybe we'll move on to the next topic, but definitely very interesting. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on this. The only thing I'd say to finish it off is I was actually listening to Dave Ramsey on Theo Von. I don't listen to Dave Ramsey regularly. I've seen his clips, obviously. So people who don't know, he's kind of a bit of an old school personal finance guy. I'm sure he's done a lot of good for some people, but I find his takes a little bit. He's a little old school.
He's the equivalent of YouTube guy. Like, is China's economy going to implode? But like for previous generation.
Yeah. And like I said, I think he's done probably a lot of good for people with their personal finances and stuff. But I think they were actually talking about this idea. Theo Von brought up the idea of a lot of people feeling like they can't get ahead. Yeah. And he's, his whole brand is like, no, go work hard and go and go do car wash, go do whatever, like, sweaty startup, basically.
Go build a skill.
Yeah. No, but it's kind of true. Like, there is a truth to what he's saying and what you're saying. But I think you kind of have to acknowledge it is objectively harder for this generation, just the way the macro economy has gone, inflation,
boomers,
and the cost of buying a house, the cost of all these different things is different. So I do think it's interesting. But anyway, let's move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Resy Scalpers, man. This is a wild story. I'll just say the headline, which I read, and I read through most of the article, but when it came out, so it's a little fuzzy for me. But I saw basically people are making 70 to 80K per year selling restaurant reservations in New York on the secondary market. And so we also want to talk about how recommendations for food have changed over the years. But let's talk about that side hustle first of all, Trung, because I feel like another Trung, 10, 15 years younger, living in New York, living in Boston, this could have been Trung, slanging those resis on the side, no?
Dude, I was never as successful entrepreneurially as you as with the bling bling empire. king business. I
But
did
you
used
got
to
that
slang.
side hustle
I did
gene, I
used to
could tell.
slang things on eBay though.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
the move.
I used to buy some throwback jerseys, Penny
Oh my
Hardaway in
God,
Orlando or
Penny
Stephon
Hardaway.
Marbury on Minnesota. Make that 10%
Would you go
degen.
thrifting Gary Vee style, or what was
No,
it like? You
I
just
never.
had them in the closet. What was the deal here?
Dude, you were talking about David Ramsey's financial advice. Dude, the Gary
Jay,
Vee advice is
Gary
just as
Vee's like,
fun.
go
It's
to
like, what are
the
you doing? What are you doing?
yard
You
sale,
should be
bro.
going free money at the thrift store.
Incredible.
No, I mean so for people that don't know, could you explain what Resy is? What is Resy?
Yeah, so Resy is like a lot of people have heard of Open Table. Think of a platform where you go an app or a website where you can go and make reservations for restaurants. Open Table, I think, was the really popular one in New York anyway, and a lot of the US. And I can't remember when Resy came out. It's probably 5 to 7 years ago, probably more than that, 7-8 years ago it came out. I think they launched in New York, and they started. I actually met the guy. I had dinner with him one time with a little restaurant crew of people, and I asked him, like, how did you even compete? Because when it first came out, I was like, why is anyone going to use Resy when there's already Open Table? And the few things they did, one is they, from memory, if I remember this correctly, they got a bunch of restaurants that weren't on Open Table before. Because in New York, a lot of the best restaurants, just you had to go and write your name down and go for a walk or get a drink at the bar and then just wait, essentially. So they got a bunch of the higher end places on there. Secondly, I think they changed the economics of how the restaurants pay. So I think it ended up being cheaper for the restaurants versus Open Table. And then the brand of it.
So
yeah, because before
okay.
Open Table you would pay Open Table, I'm making this up, but like a few dollars per person who's reserved. And then these guys, they undercut them, however they did that. And then the third thing was just the brand of it. Even though personally, I don't love the app itself. I don't know if you've used it. Like the search functionality for me, like you zoom out and it's like terrible search in my opinion, but it's a bit more slick. And the brands, like just because you got the higher end restaurants on there too, the brand was like, oh, I'm going to be on Resy. I can get like a restaurant I couldn't get elsewhere. So you felt a bit cooler, I guess, especially like 10 years ago when I was like trying to get in all these restaurant reservations. I don't really do that anymore. But yeah, so that was how they competed. And the other thing you can do is you can set a notification. So if it's already booked out, you can say if anyone cancels, normally that's what happens, or the restaurant adds reservations between these times, notify me, and they get taken really quickly as well. So that's kind of what Resy is. Or
You've
Open
used
Table.
it. Have you used it?
Yeah, I use it. I still use them both. And there's some new ones that we can talk about in a second where you actually pay. And that's relevant.
I have the names here, but I wanted to
that.
ask you more about it. So like,
yeah,
obviously this article by the New Yorker is centered around New York, right? Because there's obviously some very famous restaurants like Carbone. Have you been there?
I have once. Yeah.
How was it?
Decent, but I think like a lot of those places a little overrated.
Overhyped? Okay.
My take on most of those now is like it's fun when you're chasing like I want to be in this cool place and the food's good, but my favorite food is like home cooked style. I love going to the islands on Washington Ave in Crown Heights where it's like real Jamaican food and it's like a grandma in the back.
You're dropping knowledge right now.
Yeah, that's like my favorite sort of food, but also you do like a little trendy restaurant once in a while,
So this is kind of related to the financial nihilism. Not really, actually, it's more the marketplace side. It's the financialization of everything. This is what it's related to. I think when you said why it's hard to compete against Open Table, it's because it's hard to create a marketplace, right? You need both sides. You need the supply and the demand. You need the restaurants and you need to bring people on. It's like a chicken and egg. So you brought up, but what's interesting is like once you create a marketplace, you start shoving down different things, right? And you start seeing market type of behavior. So obviously, if a reservation at Carbone, am I pronouncing it right?
I think Carbone, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
obviously that has a value, right? Because
definitely
that is a scarce asset.
Yeah,
8 p.m.
If you're trying to
Saturday,
impress someone, that's another
there's
thing.
Maybe
right?
20 of those, 52 weeks a year. There's 1,000 units of a Carbone reservation at 8 p.m. on Saturday a year. It's a scarce asset.
Yeah,
scarce resource. So obviously people are going to find a way to game it. And I think the thrust of this article was showing kind of what you said, how the marketplace is kind of impeded onto the restaurants, but it also wanted to show how it's impacting the restaurants in a negative way. So I'm gonna throw some things out at you. You read it, and I wanted your thoughts on these specific things. So the one thing that stood out to me that I did not like was this. So you have individuals now running bots because you had mentioned that there's notifications. So if these reservations open, these bots snatch them up. I think the bot is literally called Rezo Sniper. I have a list here. Bots. It didn't say the name. There are bots, but and the restaurant owners have to basically fight against these bots, right?
Yeah.
So the reason is if you have, let's say, 18-year-old entrepreneur Bilal or 17-year-old entrepreneur Trung, after I sell my Mitchell Ness throwback Stephon Marbury jersey, I want to make an extra couple bucks, right? So I got these bots sniping all these rezos from the top restaurants. Here's a problem. If I can't resell all those restaurants, which a lot of people can't, because I might get 1,000 rezos over the week that I'm just sniping. If I can only resell 200, there's 800 empty slots at these restaurants now. And if these restaurants, the margins on these restaurants, it's hurting their business. 3
to 5% for a lot of them.
So how do you feel about that part?
Yeah, I think that's bad. I will say actually one other feature of Resy really quickly that's useful, is relevant here, is you often, maybe Open Tables add this too, is for a lot of the good ones, the top ones, you basically have to put your card down. So if you cancel too close, they automatically charge you $50, $20 or whatever, which I think is actually a smart thing to protect the restaurants, because often they can actually find someone like the best restaurants.
Put your skin in the game.
Yeah,
put your skin in the game.
Exactly. But if someone is now like selling that for $800, they're willing to risk $20, $50, right?
You're right. So they'll eat 100 of those.
Exactly.
If they can sell one.
One, yeah.
You're right. It's such a cat and mouse game. It just creates these incentives, right? So Eric Ripert, who famous celebrity chef, he says his restaurant La Bernardine spends hours a day hunting down bots and fake rezos. So they actually, some of these people that are hustling this, I'm not even mad at them. They're hustling the game, right? I just think it's shitty for the restaurants. They have to disguise their voices.
Yeah, there was a funny example. There's a guy pretending to be a girl when he's a guy and changing his voice.
Exactly. So I think that part is kind of shady. And the platform you call out specifically is called Appointment Trader. So you can swap appointments. But one way that this company is trying to be a good actor in the marketplace, and they cleared 6 million rezos last year, and they took 30%. That's a great business. That's crazy. So they made $2 million being just a trading market for these reservations that people that had no intention of eating these restaurants are trading. But the way they're trying to put more integrity in the platform is if you post 1,000, or a certain percentage, what percentage of the rezos you post are being picked up? Yeah. If it's like a low percentage, you're just being a sketchy ass dude, right? You're just doing this female voice and doing all the top restaurants. So I think that's decent. And there's a couple other apps which I want to ask you about, because I know that you were kind of in this world. Last week you talked about having multiple chase cards, understanding the points game pretty well. So this is great, because anybody that's seen the movie American Psycho, they'll remember that the restaurant, the difficult to get into restaurant was called Dorsia. So somebody made an app called Dorsia.
Yeah. And one of my friends invested in it and shared it.
Oh, really? Okay, so I'll give what I know is members only access to difficult reservations. So the top restaurants.
I think I have the app on my phone. I think I've got it installed actually. Yeah.
So why don't you talk through what you know about it after I just give this last sentence? Is the idea is so another way these restaurants are fighting back against this rezo sniping is we're just gonna place our own seats with a minimum. So we're going to put 8 p.m. Saturday, minimum spend $500. You can buy this seat now. You put down $500. That's how much you're going to have to spend when you come in on Saturday night. That's how much you can spend. Yeah. But either way you put that down.
I think that's great.
I think that's smart.
I think what you added there, and I've just opened it up. I still have it. I haven't used it, to be honest, but he was sharing it with me and I was I'll try it out to see if I could give feedback or whatever. But it basically, I saw Paul Graham, founder of YC, Y Combinator, reposted this article and was like, this is an opportunity for a startup, right? And Dorsia is a good example of one who's trying to do it in a legit way. I 100% agree. Anytime you see this sort of behavior, if you're an entrepreneurial person who's an optimist, you can be like, okay, it's not perfect right now, but there's a way to make this better for everyone. So this is a great example. If the restaurant can say, this is how much it's worth to us, and they get a guarantee of that, and people are going off these kind of like peer-to-peer trade sorts of things where people are being dishonest and pretending to be someone they're not, long term, that's not going to be good, obviously, right? So that's going to be weeded out eventually. So I think, again, I haven't used it. I think in a way, I think it's great for the restaurant. At the same time, for a normal consumer, like I just looked right now, Carbone on here is asking for a minimum of $600 you're going to pay for Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Is that
so that
today?
means you have to spend that, right?
Yeah,
or
it's
no,
a minimum.
You're spending $600 no matter what.
Yeah, and it says 100% of your payment goes towards your food and drinks minimum, whatever. So it's like going to a club. We all been there. We're outside with the boys. They're like, okay, you got no ladies with you. You need to get a table. And I'm always like, no, I don't really believe it. I have a thing. I don't really believe in that. But that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous behavior.
I know, dude. You know that's the
I've
game.
done it.
You can't be having a club 90% sausage fest, right? That
exactly. No. It makes, and that's why I also respect. I respect them doing it. I'm saying for me personally, I don't want to be spending a minimum just to. Man, I'm in a relationship. I'm not trying to spend $1,000 just to speak to my friend. I can do that in a bar. Do you know what I'm saying? So
I don't even like my friend.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so I do like that. But it's kind of the clubification of restaurants, though, right? Like if you're paying a minimum of $600 for two people, like a lot of people say, well, you might be spending that anyway in a place like that. I don't know. You don't have to spend $600 in a lot of those places. But I respect the dynamics of an open market. And if Carbone is big enough that they can afford to do that, good for them. It does make it a little bit, less accessible for most people. So let's say someone can afford the dishes, but they can't afford the $600 minimum. That is a little bit like,
You're right.
There's another element there, which again, I think Carbone have the right to do that. But it means someone who's on the come up, like me 10 years ago, I would not commit to I probably wouldn't commit to that now. But like
all
600,
all the Goldman cats taking the bonuses,
and
snapping
that's
up.
A perfect example because that's what happened. That's the clubification is that. Who are the guys buying the tables most of the time? They're either expensing it or they've got enough money that it doesn't matter, right? And so it does change the dynamic, like especially restaurants, because restaurants and a bar, like a part of why you're going is the atmosphere and the vibe,
you
right?
You want the multiple different... Yeah. You want certain segments of society there, right? You want the young college students that,
Yeah, there's layers to it, especially in New York.
You want young and attractive people there, right? But you can't do that.
And you don't want just Goldman bankers and paid for models, essentially, right? That's the end game. Basically, that's what happens in a lot of clubs, right? Is you get, literally, like I had an interview with a guy on the podcast who owns nightclubs, One Oak. He's like, they would make partnerships with, the model agencies, and they would just ship them to the club, basically.
Oh,
and them in, and then that'll attract
they got
guys
the money
in.
From the banker. Yeah,
exactly. So again, all of this saying, I respect the dynamics of a free market. This is, the world we live in, but I do think it's a little bit. It takes away the fun of like discovering a nice new restaurant, which is. It's not all about just money. As much as I think people should be able to pay a little bit more if they value it more. If it's literally just like you're paying $600 to go to that place, then it's a little bit of it's kind of shit.
Well, let me wrap this up because I love how you said that. The way we basically set it up was we described how these marketplace develops. Makes a lot of sense. How they're being gamed, how the restaurants are responding. You mentioned Dorsia. The other one, based on what you said about Paul Graham, there's opportunity here. So 7 Rooms is another app where they're basically partnering with restaurants and trying to share points across them.
Yeah.
So the restaurants are trying to be like, they're like, how do we control more of this demand, right? Could we control the asset, we control the supply. How do we get more value out of it? So I'm gonna ask you about this after I do a quick cough. All right. So
thanks for muting there.
The far end of this, the other side of the continuum, which is like when full gamification is old school. So the one in the article, which I want to ask if you've been, I've never been. Jay-Z said this is the best pizza restaurant I ever went to. Lucali in Brooklyn.
Yeah. It's not far from me. Yeah.
I was about to say, they do 0 resos. If you want to get a table at their 4 p.m., you start lining up at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Have you done it before?
I haven't done Lucali actually, though, and the guy that I had dinner with the Resy guy opened up something with Lucali's main guy called Baby Luke's, I think.
No,
it was only 3. No, I'm not trying. I'm saying it's so I haven't even been to Lucali, but he's a restaurateur who owns a few restaurants, and he invited me with the Resy guy and the Food and Wine magazine guy. So it's just 4 of us. But that guy is like, if you imagine New York restaurateur, like this is him. Oh,
he's like Danny Meyer.
Oh yeah, but even more like, because he's like wearing a 3-piece suit, looking like a G. You know, like you walk in, he's shouting, he's like, "Get Bilal drink," like, you know, throwing it across the bar sort of vibe. He's that. And so for me, even just being interested in business, sitting with them, man, was quite an interesting experience. They're like talking about, how they're talking about the new restaurants that's open up, and they're like, "Oh, that's a 40 top," and they're using all these phrases that I don't even now I know what it means, but. And the way they would break it down really quickly is like, that must be profitable because of this, or they're killing it because of this. And it's just really interesting. But the Lucali's thing, that's the other end of the spectrum, right? Like you said, is honestly, a lot of the best restaurants still, you still just have to go put your name down. And that is different to lining up. I hate the lining up. I refuse to line up.
Okay, tell me about the lining up.
Well, yeah, I get it. If you're in town, if you're in town for a few days, you want to go, I get it. I hate it because it's just like, I've got more interesting things to be doing than sitting in line for 2 hours, right? And now people are hiring people to wait in line. I was going to say,
that's how the article ended. They went to the Lucali line and, hey, I got paid on Craigslist to wait.
It's the same way people were doing that for sneakers, for all these different things. Again, respect the hustle of the marketplace, but man, like I said, personally, especially when you're in New York, it's like you're always going to find the most trendy, I'm so cool because I got into this restaurant. That's really what drives it, right? Like, if we're being honest. I know food's good, but if you're going just for good food, there's plenty of good food spots. Once you've done it a little bit, you're like, okay, this is boring now. And you're really doing it because you're just chasing that feeling. And honestly, a lot of it, you're trying to impress someone. You're trying to be like, look, I'm the cool guy who got a reservation here. Once you've done that bit, you're like, actually, this is just a waste of my time. You know, this is like, there's so much amazing food.
What's the longest you've waited in line?
Honestly, I don't think I ever wait in line. I would like put my name down and wait, like go elsewhere for 2 hours. Like I've done probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, but I would occupy myself with something.
I would
not really wait in line.
I ain't waiting. I hate
waiting for stuff like that. Like it's not worth it for me. But I respect. The one I was saying, Japan, I waited because again, I'm a tourist there.
Oh yeah.
So I went at 5 a.m. to this famous sushi place in the fish market.
The fish market.
I went Skiji fish market as well. Yeah.
Well, what did you have? Let's talk about it, because I was actually there in 2018, the week before it closed. Did you have a good time?
Dude, I thought it was going to be overrated, and then I had it. I'm like, no, this is the best thing I've ever had.
$30 sushi breakfast? You're going to give me... Dude.
Do you remember the name of the place? I can't even remember. There's two famous ones next to each other.
With inside, yeah, they're in the inside. What I do remember is this, though, is like when you go on the outside a bit, the outer ring, and they got the other stall.
Oh, it's sick.
Bro, you're getting that eel, Eel, I cannot tell you the barbecue eel game. How much I love unagi. My wife hates unagi. I love unagi.
I only liked it when I went there because I was like, how good is eel? And then I had that and I'm like, my God.
Eel slaps.
Melts in your mouth vibe. Beautiful.
Funny last thought on eel. It actually used to be extreme delicacy, like extremely expensive back in the day. But we don't have to talk about that. We can move on to Tesla. That was a great restaurant chat.
Great. Yeah. All right. I think that was good. Yeah. Love to hear what people think about that. It's definitely... very interesting story. Respect the hustle, but yeah, let's let people get some normal reservations too, man. Tesla is up 15% since the last time we spoke.
No, bro, up 30%.
I think it was 30, but then it went down a little bit today. I think.
Non-investment advice, by the way. Non-investment advice.
Definitely not investment advice. But what has been going on? Because last time we spoke, it was anticipation of the numbers not being great, which ended up being true. And funnily enough, Facebook, Meta, their numbers were pretty good, but they got hit negatively because of the costs being inflated or whatever. But since then, Elon has been conjuring up this China deal, it looks like, is really what's driving it.
Well, there's a couple of things at play. Yeah, so last week when we talked about it, the two main things we talked about, it was this: my experience with full self-driving, and then a potential world of robo-taxis. So 4 hours after we finished recording, they announced the name of the robotaxi, and even showed what the app would look like. So we talked about maybe it being in the Tesla app, but what was that for? That was for the 6 million cars already on the road. If you own one, you could actually in the future put your car in the network. But there's a dedicated cyber cab, is the name of it, app. I mean, listen, this is years away, people. And there's as we talked about last week, the regulatory and social hurdles are the biggest part of it. But the interesting thing that came out was this. Elon said that if you don't believe in autonomy and you don't believe that Tesla is like an AI first company, it's like you should not be invested in this. This is the new narrative, right? So spin it. I know there's a lot of Tesla bears out there. They're hearing this like, oh, listen, it's a new repivot of the company and what it's supposed to be. But I mean, Tesla is putting its money where its mouth is. Like they've invested billions of dollars. They might have the third biggest AI cluster in the world now, outside of Microsoft, Google, and Meta. Maybe the third or fourth. They have a massive cluster for FSD, full self-driving. Very different than what Google, Meta, and Microsoft are doing. That's obviously generative AI, like stuff like OpenAI, LLMs, image generation. Tesla's cluster is meant for full self-driving, which is more, as we talked about last week, computer vision, recognizing things on the road, and basically having autonomous driving, right? Now, the stock was up, I think, 12 or 14% when they said they're going full autonomy. And also they mentioned that there will be a lower price car. Because remember last week we talked about BYD. So I actually got that wrong. Somebody in the YouTube comments corrected me. It was not Beyond Your Dreams. It's Build Your Dreams.
Oh, yeah, even better.
What's funny is like Bilal was losing his mind at Beyond Your Dreams. And I was like, Build Your Dreams is even better.
That's so good.
And so Tesla did say they will do a lower price car. But it wasn't clear whether or not that meant a lower price Model 3 or Model Y, because they said that they can do it on existing manufacturing lines, which is different than the $25,000 line, which would have been gangbusters. But as we talked about last week, if the Cybercab is what the future is or what they want to pursue, and he has called autonomy, Elon says balls to the wall on autonomy, which is just objectively hilarious. If they do volume of Cybercab, hit the millions of Cybercabs, like that press is going to be able to do the $25,000 car. So it doesn't really make a difference where they go with that. The timeline might change a year or two, but you can't be looking at this thing in a 1 or 2 year timeline, right? If you're going to see an autonomous future, which I said last week, it was pretty clear to me that it's coming. Obviously Waymo does very restricted areas in San Francisco and Phoenix. Elon describes as hyper specialized because they are. They're very clear roads. Bilal had mentioned last week, you should go to Dubai, where they're a forward-looking city that might want to take more Teslas and allow Cybercab to happen, right? And I wouldn't be shocked at all if that happened, or Saudi Arabia, or something along that ilk. But autonomy is number one now. Solving FSD is number one, and that was the thrust of the earnings call. And the reason why is Tesla has kind of lost its shine as a tech-first car company, in the sense of other companies have caught up, and it's been 10 years now, right? So how do they keep that aspirational brand? How do they keep that aspirational purchasing decision? So before we talk about China, any other thoughts on that?
No, I think it's not much else apart from that. I will start. You saw me grinning there because you said Saudi and driving. I had a joke that I don't want to say out loud, but Tesla's be driving
women
before.
Women are allowed to drive now, so it's changing.
Yeah,
it's changing.
Things are changing. Forward-thinking country there.
I had an idea what joke you're going with, but it is changing.
Yeah. Well, so there was also something about, maybe you just mentioned this and I missed it, but the map integration, no? Or like the...
Well, here's the China thing. So let's talk about China specifically. So actually, I think one of the biggest signs why people are back into Tesla stock, it's still down, I think 25-30% for the year, but it's up 30% in the past 10 days, is people were quite distracted about Elon. People thought Elon is distracted. He's got a lot on his plate. Super active on X, right? But I mean, he basically flew to China overnight. Nobody knew it was coming. Cut this deal. which on the heels of TikTok being banned, the bill that came out, President Biden signed it. So TikTok has 9 months now to divest. If they don't divest by then, they're gonna get banned in the United States. The CCP and ByteDance have already said we're not selling. So the only way, the two routes now is either they're gonna stop operating in America in a year because they have a 3-month extension, or they're going to go take it to the courts, which they are. There's gonna be litigation, and they're gonna say the ban is unconstitutional. That the reason I bring that up is in the specter of this trade war, Elon flies to China.
You want to get that deal in before all of that pops up?
Well, that and also just shows like his recommitment to Tesla in terms of like, oh no, don't worry, people at Tesla. I'm still recommitting my time.
Yeah.
And this is also on the heels of they retabled. Remember how we said his $56 billion pay package was taken away by the Delaware courts? That they put a new vote to Tesla shareholders, and to basically let him get that pay package back. And all this to be like, I think Elon is fully committed in war mode with Tesla again. He just fired 10% of the company. Some major hitters are leaving the company. And I mean, one sign of this is that this is bad. The other sign is like remember when Zuck 2 years ago went into like a year of efficiency, like trimmed the fat, got Meta back into war mode. I mean, that's basically what's happening at Tesla right now. It's back in war mode. And but the China deal is not the headline, made it sound much more, I think, lucrative than it currently is. Basically, what happened was there's a data sharing deal where some of the Chinese driver data for the Tesla cars, which currently is not allowed to go to America, is allowed to go to America to help with the autonomy models. But a couple of caveats here. This has nothing to do with full self-driving. This is just the autonomous autopilot features, which are like a level low, which is just like lane control and standard car features like that. But the full self-driving, which we discussed last week, which is like the road to level 5, which is where no hands involved cyber cabs, that still hasn't been handled. The partnership you mentioned is with Baidu mapping. So with Tesla specifically, that is more new, and that would allow autopilot on Tesla cars.
Yeah.
But the thing to consider is that there actually is a lot of autonomy efforts in China already. So
with other manufacturers,
XPeng being a major one, not BYD. BYD is more the car side, the low end $10,000, $15,000 car. XPeng is doing autonomous driving software. They're actually even trying to ship that to Europe. So like that's a competitive business. So again, last week the way we set it up was that in an EV future is really Chinese manufacturers versus Tesla, and everybody else is getting clapped.
Yeah.
So so the China thing is interesting because Tesla's what used to be the only game in town for China EVs. It's the biggest market outside the United States for Teslas. So their sales numbers in China are down. So people are seeing this as a way to reignite those sales, and also they need to autonomy is 100% software margin, right? Anywhere else we can put a full self-driving is to Tesla's benefit. So there's still quite a few hurdles left, but it's like I think the largest sign is like he's in war mode. It's like, and that's what Tesla investors they wanted to see.
That's what they want to see. Yeah, completely. But so I think from when I was reading about this, the thing I was just thinking about was how much of his role in not just him, a public company's role is perception and signaling to the market. Like for example, 100%. Let's say he said tomorrow I'm selling X, or I'm completely stepping away from it and I'm just fully focused on Tesla. That's obviously going to be positively correlated most likely to their stock price and stuff like that. And I feel like it's incredibly impressive that how much he's been able to split his time between different companies, the same way Jack Dorsey did with Square and Twitter.
Yeah.
Though you could argue how successful that was.
Some may say that was not the most lucrative.
Yeah, I agree. And now obviously Twitter is private, so he doesn't have the same scrutiny of the public market and the soon to be 24/7 trading of the stock market to worry about. So that's actually that's one of the points we didn't actually talk about, is just as someone running a company, one of the hardest things as a public company is that you're constantly having to think in 3-month increments with Wall Street's perception of you, and being able to be long-term thinking the way a lot of the tech, the best tech leaders, when they were getting hit, they're like, no, we're going to keep doing what we're doing long-term, and you guys will figure it out eventually. Or building that trust where people say, actually, that Mark Zuckerberg knows what he's doing, or Larry Page knows what he's doing when it was going well for him, or whatever. So yeah, it is interesting, like how much of a difference the perception makes with stuff like this. And obviously, traditionally, Elon's been great at that. And in the last few years, it's been a little bit harder with the politicization of him in the media, whether you agree with that or not. So it's quite interesting to see him, doing what he can there. All right, Trung, anything else on that before we wrap up, mate? That was a good, solid episode.
That was meaty, man.
We talked a lot of good stuff. All right, yeah, I think we can call it here then, yeah? That was great.
Yeah, that was amazing. Hopefully, Jack will be back soon. Just again, busy cat.
Exactly, and if not, either way, we'll be letting you guys know what's going on. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and we will see you next week. Cheers, bye-bye.
Peace out.